everyone, and hey Wade. It's Shina here to talk about the life and work of Ai Weiwei. First off, I just wanted to say that I think it's a pretty weird time for all of us to exist, especially in the era of social distancing. I've had a lot of time to think and a lot of time to feel like I'm kind of floating around in the void. I've also had time to go on a couple long walks by myself. Well, maybe more than a couple. But the good part about it is that I have been able to knock off a couple of documentaries from my list. And when I was thinking about what artist I wanted to choose for this project, I almost immediately thought of Ai Weiwei. And then I realized that he's got a couple documentaries out, one of them being Never Sorry, and the other one I haven't seen yet. But Never Sorry basically goes into his life a little bit from childhood and then throughout his adult life. Ai Weiwei has a famous father who's really well known in China as a contemporary poet named Ai King. And I think that a lot of his influence in art and contemporary sculpture has been from his dad. Um, so a lot of his work is large scale and is built up by small pieces to create this larger scale piece of work. He doesn't personally do most of his own art. He hires a collective or a group of artists and craftsmen to put together these incredibly intricate works of art. This allows him to build up more large scale, often interactive pieces for the viewer to experience and touch and feel. As you can see, each tiny sunflower is meticulously crafted by these artists behind the scenes. Weiwei had artists producing these sunflower seeds around the clock to create hundreds and thousands and millions of sunflower seeds. The exhibit was actually taken down eventually because it was creating too much dust. Here is one of Weiwei's Han Dynasty pots that he painted over. So this is an original Han Dynasty pot that he essentially repainted, which is one of the reasons why he's affectionately referred to as the Chinese Andy Warhol. He puts a contemporary spin on Neolithic instruments and makes them something new altogether. Weiwei has also gotten a lot of flack for destroying old art that would be considered really rare and valuable, which art critics and historians have speculated that his quote unquote destruction of these pieces is simply establishing a commentary on our destruction of things in our everyday lives and the government's destruction and responsibility for the environment, deforestation, climate change, and gentrification has had a far greater impact on society and individuals than one man smashing a pot from 1,000 years ago. But I digress. This kind of criticism was just the beginning of Ai Weiwei's troubles. At this point, he was getting national attention for his controversial work, as well as attention from the Chinese government. In 2009, Ai Weiwei was protesting the arrest of a political activist in China, and he was subsequently attacked by the police in his hotel room. Weiwei would later attempt to charge these officers with assault to no avail because of the corruption of the Chinese government. He took measures into his own hands by releasing a video with several people saying expletives to the camera. Specifically, the words in the back read, "Fuck you, China." This was Weiwei's form of free artistic expression as well as political rebellion against the Chinese government. Many other hardships would be thrown at him in the following years. After completing the construction of his studio in Shanghai, the government ruled that it was built illegally, so it was then demolitioned, which he was in attendance of. He also held a demolition party with hundreds of people in attendance to celebrate the demolition of his studio. That same year, Weiwei would be arrested without warrant or explanation by the Chinese government and extracted from his own home in the middle of the night. Once news of his detainment reached national headlines, there would be a global outcry for Weiwei's safe return and a demand for a reason why he was arrested in the first place. Even the museum, the Tate Modern in London, that was once home to his famous sunflower seed exhibit, sported the phrase "Release Ai Weiwei" on the side of their building. Finally, after 81 long days in detainment and potentially solitary confinement, Ai Weiwei was released back to his home under house arrest and strictly ordered not to speak to the press. For the first time, people worried that Weiwei had lost his voice forever. But it wasn't long before he made a comeback. In just a few months' time, he was back on his platforms and back to creating art again. By then, it seemed that he had gained too much international attention for the government to interfere with his work again. He was back on Twitter and social media to use his voice and his belief in freedom of speech. One of Weiwei's larger installments was displayed in Germany, a giant mosaic of backpacks which spelled out the sentence, "For 7 years she lived happily on this earth." This piece was installed in memoriam to the children that lost their lives during the Sichuan earthquake. The words are brought together by hundreds of thousands of individual backpacks, which represent each child whose life may have been claimed during an earthquake that claimed the lives of over 70,000 people. Alright, so for the sake of concluding on a high note, I've added a series of funny pictures of Ai Weiwei posing in front of his work, and I've got a couple serious ones too. So basically, to wrap it up, I am happy to have covered one of my favorite artists and whose documentaries I'm still currently working through, and I guess I've basically created my own mini documentary, so thanks for watching!